Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
Hello and welcome to this Tuesday and Monday movie show.
Yay! It's all over the place. We're jump. You know what? Actually, it is. It's not that we are actually on a Tuesday. We are actually on Sunday. We just jumped forward a couple of days to do it.
Yeah, and please don't use the Terminator thing to actually. Yeah, I knew you would go down that route. Yeah, for the next couple of weeks anyway, we'll be live on a Tuesday. So just to give you an early warning about next week's show as well, it's down to the fact that Andrew is travelling a little bit over the last weekend and this coming weekend, and so we'll have to move the show to a different day, and Tuesday by the looks of things seems to be the best day. So you've got future warning for next week's show as well. We are live on a Tuesday unless some kind of weird paradox happens. We end up being on a Sunday, but Sunday in a different time period, etc., and my brain hurts. So yeah. I'm sure
if anyone is wanting to know and they don't know already, it's because I was at a wedding last week. It's because I'm at Tea in the Park this week.
And there is a lot of people out there who just don't care. Charming, aren't they?
That's kind of painful.
Oh, you poor little diddums. Anyway, on to movies. Make sure you check out the website mondaymovieshow.co.uk, facebook.com/mondaymovieshow, Twitter @mondaymovieshow, and you can email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. I'm on Twitter @cryptictadpole. Andrew's on there at AHDVD. That's all that should be out the way. We're here to review films, and on this week's show we're looking at these two films in the cinema.
We've got the latest in the Terminator series. Arnie is back in the fifth but third movie in the series, technically, Terminator Genisys, and we have the return of Magic Mike in Magic Mike XXL, with Channing Tatum and co returning, stripping their way through 2 hours of film.
I wish I didn't have to see it, trust me, but I'll get onto that when I review it. And on DVD and Blu-ray we're looking at these movies.
Yeah, we have award-winning Julianne Moore in Still Alice. We have Neil Blomkamp's latest sort of sci-fi twist that he does with Chappie. We have a stalker thriller movie with Jennifer Lopez and The Boy Next Door. We have Will Smith in Focus. We have a comedy. I guess we'll find out when we get to it, with The Wedding Ringer. A small Brit film, police sort of criminal drama in Hyena, and ending out with horror in the evening with The Possession of Michael King.
And on top of that, we have our TV movie of the week, the DVD Blu-ray top 10, the UK box office top 10. But let's kick things off, as we normally do, with movie news.
Yeah, the only piece of news I have for this week is that Selma director Ava DuVernay, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not, I'm terrible with names, who directed the Martin Luther King biopic in recent years, has met with Marvel last week, as was rumoured, but has confirmed that she is not signing on to direct the Marvel movie Black Panther. She's insisted that she passed on the project, stating, "I'm not signing on to direct Black Panther. I think I'll just say we had different ideas about what the story would be. Marvel has a certain way of doing things, and I think they're fantastic, and a lot of people love what they do. I love that they reached out to me, but in the end it comes down to a story of perspective, and we just didn't see eye to eye. Better for me to realise now than to cite creative differences later."
It is better for her to actually realise now, because she could have actually started the project and started to do stuff on the project, and then, say, a couple of months down the line, like she said, she needs to put it down to creative differences, because that's when problems occur. And so at least she's decided to say no. The ideas that you had weren't sort of like the ideas that I was going to go with the film, and so it's best if you go with somebody else who agrees with what you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that happened with Ant-Man, which is coming out in a couple of weeks now. And I'm looking forward to that, but obviously it's not got Edgar Wright behind it, who was the person who signed on, originally had ideas, but did conflict with what Marvel wanted to do. So I guess we're going to see how that turned out, because I mean, it's not the first time there's been a Marvel film with some conflict behind it. The second Iron Man film had that, and I actually enjoy it. A lot of people don't, but I have no problems with the second one for sort of the most part. And the thing is with Ant-Man is, I think Edgar Wright wanted to do something that was standalone. Obviously, Marvel is tying everything in together into the Avengers universe, as we've seen with the advertising for Ant-Man. It's definitely part of that Avengers universe. So Marvel was really pushing for that, I think. But we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, the only one that Marvel is sort of like letting the director have his own way is Guardians of the Galaxy, because James Gunn has said that he wants to try and differentiate the Guardians of the Galaxy films from the Marvel Universe. He wants to put them sort of like side by side, so the Marvel Universe can run with its movies that lead up to each one of the Avengers films, but Guardians of the Galaxy doesn't need to have anything to do with it. So I think they've let him have that.
It's going to. I mean, you had the whole thing that the Infinity Stone and stuff was kind of the core thing around Guardians of the Galaxy. As much as it was its own standalone separate thing, it is going to come together in Infinity War in some years' time. Yeah,
it's a messy franchise now. It's a messy universe now. The way it's handled, because there are so many films coming out for it, and like I said, it's just, I think, in my personal opinion anyway, I'm getting superhero fatigue. Yet the worst is still to come. If you think that we've had a deluge of superhero films over the last few years, it is just going to get even more hectic once the ball starts rolling on the DC stuff as well. So we're going to get the DC stuff, we're going to get the Marvel stuff, we're going to get the Spider-Man universe, we're going to get the Transformers universe, even though that's not technical superhero, but it's still the big stupid blockbuster kind of stuff. And so there is going to be so much of that saturation that I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest.
I'm looking forward to it, because I am a comic book fan, although I do understand what you mean. And we are going to be getting now into the kind of the second-rate characters, which are kind of the characters I know less about. I mean, you've got Doctor Strange, for example, is the one that's being played by Benedict Cumberbatch now. I have absolutely no knowledge of the Doctor Strange character, but the thing for that is, for me, is it will be interesting to see. It'll be a new character for me to learn about that I don't know about, to see and to actually come to fresh. Whereas all these other ones before so far, Iron Man I knew about, we've had Thor I knew of but not knew a lot of, Captain America I knew a lot about, and the Avengers is ones that I've known about. So I'm kind of looking forward to going into the new batch of superheroes that I don't know. Just a question of whether or not I will find them as enjoyable as the ones that I already know, finally seeing them all sort of come together.
The only problem I have with them is they'll probably spend an entire film on origin stories for them, and so that's the only problem I see, because we're sick and tired of seeing origin stories for superheroes now, especially when it's a whole film, rather than just spending a little bit of the film to set up an origin of the superhero or the character of the film, and then give them something in it, rather than a whole entire film. Spider-Man's done it twice. So it's over the last few years, so it's annoying.
Maybe we'll see that change. I mean, maybe there are going to be appearances in Ant-Man that will be setting up the other ones. I don't know. We'll see.
All I'll just say is it's going to be a big, massive headache if you're drawing a timeline. You're going to have walls and walls of walls of just being able to draw timelines, because it's going to be such a painstaking thing to do. My news. Sam Smith has confirmed that he is not doing the theme for the next Bond film, Spectre. It looks like, however, though, that Ellie Goulding will be taking over the reins of the song for Spectre.
Okay, I will reserve judgment until I hear it. Not because I have anything against her, but because I actually think she's got a really good voice. She's done some songs in particular that were on... there's a couple of songs she did that I really did like on the soundtrack for the first Divergent film. There were a couple of songs on there that I really did like that were her. And she's got a voice that's been used in a lot of songs on films and a lot of things
50 Shades of Grey.
So, well, yeah, there's that. I mean, the thing is as well, that's actually not a bad song. I don't mind that song. My other half absolutely hate it, but I don't mind that song. And it's like she's got a good voice, so it's definitely someone who is of a decent singing voice rather than, you know, Alicia Keys and Jack White, and then the whole horrible mixed digital rendition thing that Madonna did, because that was just absolutely awful.
Oh, the whiny horribleness of Skyfall from Adele.
I didn't mind that.
I hated that song.
Adele has got a good voice, so
I'm definitely glad they haven't gone with Sam Smith, because as with Adele, they both get right on my nerves. I am sick of hearing their moany, moping music that they do. They're such a depressive bunch, those two. I would hate it if they both got together to do a duet. It would be a wormhole would appear and suck everybody into a world of just sitting in rocking chairs, rocking backwards and forwards, looking melancholic into the sky. It would just be horrible.
Man, aren't you?
I just don't like them two. I just find their music really, really horrible.
The one thing I would like to say is that I'd like to see them do more of what they did with David Arnold, who did Casino Royale. Actually, the composer of the film, because there are going to be themes that are worked in between the music for the film and the actual song. I want to see more of the composer writing the title theme with the singing artist, rather than it just being giving over to them and the artist doing all the singing and coming up with it. Because I loved what Chris Cornell did for You Know My Name for Casino Royale, and that was written with David Arnold, and it used the themes that he put into the music for Casino Royale all the way through the film. So it felt part of it. It didn't feel separated and disjointed.
That's why I think somebody like Muse would have been much better, because Muse has sort of like that orchestral kind of feel to some of their music anyway, and so it would have been much more interesting to go with somebody rock rather than somebody pop.
It would be interesting as well, because I mean, Matt Bellamy again is someone who does have a great voice.
Yeah, and their writing talent when it comes to their music is fantastic. Other news, there is one piece of news I'm going to actually relegate to last, because it's such off the wall kind of news that I just want your reaction for it for the last piece of news. But Fox have announced they are making a TV series out of Fatal Attraction.
That's going to last maybe 13 episodes.
Their bunny budget is going to be huge on that. Both J.K. Simmons and Michael Keaton have stepped away from Skull Island, the King Kong reboot.
Production hell. Okay, this is probably going to have probably more people joining it and leaving it than the Crow remake.
Yeah, so that's two big names stepping away from that, isn't it? Both Michael Keaton and J.K. Simmons. Normally it's just one, and then the other one might step away around about a few months down the line, but both together.
I mean, the thing is, Michael Keaton is having a renaissance really of his performance, of his career. So, I mean, if it's something like that, maybe he had signed up to it before, and it was more of a thing of we'll pay you loads of money, come be on this, and now he's kind of like, he's got maybe a little bit more self-respect after things like Birdman. I thought, you know what, I don't need to do this. I'll go on and find something else that I want to do more, rather than something that pays me to do it. And
isn't it Gareth Edwards who's directing it? King Kong one.
I think it is, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
It may just be because, I mean, the thing about Godzilla was that it was a creature feature, and all the actors in it were kind of forgotten for most of it. So, I mean, it's Michael Keaton might be looking at it and going, yeah, well, it's all well. Godzilla was a good creature feature, but did it do anything for any of the actors in it? Not really.
Speaking of Godzilla, if you check Google at the moment, this is live anyway, they've got a special tribute to the creator of Godzilla on their Google search engine thing. So
I saw something, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, other news, Matt Stone and Trey Parker have announced that they are planning a Book of Mormon film. Finally, Matt Stone and Trey Parker getting into films. Back into films, about time.
I was going to say, what do you mean finally?
Well, the last one was Team America World Police. Which was donkeys ago.
I will say this, I do have a fondness for basketball in my heart.
I love basketball. People who think that I don't have a funny bone, yeah, I love basketball, just and Orgasmo. Orgasmo's such a strange movie, but both of those two make me giggle. And Cannibal the musical as well. And obviously South Park and Team America. Matt Stone and Trey Parker are awesome. Bryan Singer is rumoured to be taking over from Josh Trank on the sequel to The Fantastic Four.
Really?
Yes, really.
It's literally like Fox had just gone. Oh, so you know that guy that we got that had doing the X-Men films before, we made a disastrous decision not to have him do another one, and it all went downhill and people hated the franchise and we kind of almost killed it, and then brought it back a little bit, and then he came back to us. He did this really, really good one about time travel and saved it all and kind of revitalized it. Can we get someone like him to do the next Fantastic Four film? And what they've done is they've actually gone and got him. Just a bit more imagination, please.
Exactly. They've just looked at Marvel and thought, well, they got Joss Whedon to oversee all of their films. We need somebody. Bryan Singer will do.
And the thing is, they'll get him in and they'll want him to do exactly the same thing he did for Superman Returns, which is what he did when he went over to Paramount. To Warner Brothers. And Superman Returns was a disaster because it completely just didn't suit the character of Superman. And the Fantastic Four film, the new one, from the looks of it, is a complete detachment from the Fantastic Four and looks like it doesn't suit them at all. So they're just going to completely screw up this franchise. I mean, I think the Fantastic Four looks good. I don't know what it's going to be like yet. We'll find out in a month. But it's a question of whether or not, first of all, are we going to want a Fantastic Four 2 after this? And second of all, are we going to want nothing against Bryan Singer, because he is a great comic book director, but he has a certain type of comic book that he does, and a certain type of comic book that he can't do. Do we want a Bryan Singer Fantastic Four? I don't think so, to be honest.
No. And onto the WTF news of the week, two of them, that is. Deadline have confirmed that Japanese iconic character Hello Kitty will be getting a US big screen treatment in 2019 with a budget that's estimated between $160 and $240 million. This is an animated film based on Hello Kitty with that kind of budget.
Right, thank you everybody. Good night. I'm off.
Yeah, that's not the strangest piece of news though.
Okay, I'm coming back to my chair. Let me hang on. So I do have, by the way, a squeaky chair this week.
Yeah, squeaky chair. Yeah, we know what it is.
My other chair is at my other address. It's moved. My computer hasn't moved yet, so I'm left with my old chair, which is really quite ropey.
But a Hello Kitty film, God. The final piece of news. Now, this has just made me go, what? According to the Hollywood Reporter, Paul Thomas Anderson and Robert Downey Jr. are teaming together to make a Pinocchio film.
Not the strangest thing I've ever heard, but...
For Warner Brothers.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I can't imagine Disney ever giving up the rights to something they own to be used for something else. If they did, it would be Disney in-house. It wouldn't. It would be at Disney Studios or Disney. It would be at Buena Vista. It would not be at Warner Brothers. And second of all, I do not think that they would let Paul Thomas Anderson do it, because Paul Thomas Anderson has never done a kids film. He's always done adult stuff with adult themes. And doing an adult version of Pinocchio, I can just think of a couple of gags right now that would definitely not be suitable for a PG-13 or 12A movie.
But my guess is, unless Disney hold the full rights from the original source material of Pinocchio, which was done back in the late 19th century.
I have a suspicion that they do somehow.
So we'll see. If not, then somebody else can actually do a Pinocchio film if they don't hold the proper rights to the original source material. So there might just be a Disney version, a Disney take on it. It's just that nobody has decided to try and do something with the Pinocchio license, because obviously they think that Disney's got it, unless Warner Brothers has found out that they can actually make a film based on... I don't even know who created Pinocchio, to be honest, but I know it's Italian, but that's all I know. I know the source material came out in the late 19th century, but just if they can actually create something from that, we'll see. It's just Paul Thomas Anderson and Robert Downey Jr. on a Pinocchio film.
Yeah, well,
and Hello Kitty.
the story was written by Carlo Collodi.
Okay. That means nothing to me.
Who was someone in Italy who died in 1890. So he wrote it in the mid 1800s.
Okay. I knew it was Italian, and I knew it was somewhere in the 19th century. At least I knew that anyway. Right, UK box office top 10 time, and it's actually a more up-to-date version of the UK box office top 10, which you can find on the website, which was just put up this afternoon.
Yeah, number 10 is Knock Knock, new entry. Well, no, sorry, not new entry, it was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was released last week. I'm surprised that the only reason why it's hauled over this week is because it's the lack of any humongous films out, and so Knock Knock has managed to steer in the top 10 with only taken just above £65 million. It's directed by Eli Roth. He's got another film come out this year called The Green Inferno out in September. That looks much more interesting film compared to this. It's okay, but Keanu Reeves is on full mourning mode in this film. He gets right on your nerves a lot of the time because all he is doing is screaming and shouting when in fact you're rooting for the two girls who torture him to just shut him up.
Number 9 is Mr. Holmes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Mr. Holmes. I'm guessing you've still yet to see it.
I still have, yeah. I just haven't had time for seeing things like that. And it's one. There's this, and there's the movie at number 1. I still haven't seen yet, in particular. That I really want to see both of them.
Yeah, but Mr. Holmes, it's very well acted by Ian McKellen. I'm surprised it's taken this long for him to actually play Sherlock Holmes. There is a problem with one of the story strands in the movie because it's a three story strand film. I just felt like one of the strands could have easily been cut out and only referenced at times during the film. Then it would have made it slightly more shorter and it would have made it a bit more contained. But that's my only gripe with the movie.
Number 8 is Royal Opera House Guillermo Tell.
Which is William Tell. As a matter of fact, this had to be cut just before it was shown because it was one of those ones where it was shown in the cinema, streamed from London as a live performance, but the live performance had to be changed because of some nudity and a rape scene that happens halfway through the production of it. People who went to see it thought it was just too strong, and so it had to be changed in time for it to be streamed in cinemas.
Interesting. I guess we're going to gloss over as well. Number 7, Secret Cinema, The Empire Strikes Back, still making loads of money on high-priced tickets in London.
Yep.
Number 6 is Spy.
Which I thought it was okay. It's Paul Feig's best film, but that's not saying a lot. There is a couple of gags in it which is funny. It's not as annoying as a lot of his movies, but it's still not that good.
AJ Statham is fantastic in it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
He's good in it. Number 5 is Amy, which is the new documentary.
Yeah, I wanted to go and see this today. I had a chance to go and see this today. It's directed by Asif Kapadia, who did Senna, and that's the reason why I wanted to go and see it. Even though I'm not interested in the life of Amy Winehouse, she was a very destructive person. But the way Asif Kapadia handled Senna, he made Formula One interesting. I don't find myself watching Formula One now after seeing Senna, but he made it interesting. So if he can do that with something of a subject like that, I can just imagine what he could do with something like Amy. It's getting expanded at many more cinemas from Friday, and around about 200 sites from Friday. So there's more cinemas that's going to show it. So it should still be in the top 10 next week. But it has the highest taken of any homegrown documentary as well. Debut opening weekend for it. So I'm eager to see it.
Number 4 is new entry for Magic Mike XXL, which we'll get onto in a moment. Number 3 is Jurassic World,
which is fine. It's broken the $1.4 billion target in the worldwide box office, so it will soon be on Fast and Furious 7's tours and knock that off the number 3rd spot. I think that's on like 1.5, 1.6, and then it should creep onto Titanic's tours and then hopefully Avatar's. I don't know if it'll get close to Avatar, but it might be very near to that. Star Wars should easily be able to do that next year once its full-on run is finished. So it's done stupidly well for itself. For a film that's not bad. It's nothing any special, but it's not bad.
Impressive for a film that's been out for a month. Is at number 3 in the UK box office and number 2 still in the US box office.
Yeah, just beaten to the number 2 spot by Inside Out, because the takings on Sunday, when the initial box office from the US comes out, showed that Jurassic World was number 1 and Inside Out was number 2. When the final takings was released on the Monday, Inside Out pipped Jurassic World, and this is in the US, by around about $50,000.
Yeah, not much at all. Highest new entry this week is Terminator Genisys, number 2. We'll get onto that in just a moment, which means the number 1 movie is Minions.
Which I've seen twice.
I haven't seen once yet still.
And I've seen it in both 3D and 2D, and it's much better in 2D than it is in 3D. There is a couple of things in the film which is intended for 3D where something comes at the screen, but that's the annoying part of 3D, that. The 2D, it is still just as entertaining. There is a scene which involves some guards at the Tower of London and a musical number which is started by the minion that is Stuart with a psychic hat on, and it is the funniest thing I have seen all year. Honestly, it just made me... I was giggling like a little kid the second time. I went to see it with people as well on the second time, and they turned round to me and said, "Yep, he's an idiot." But honestly, it is a really funny film. It's not as funny as the Despicable Me 2, but it is still just very, very close to it. It is really, really funny, especially when the minions are on screen. Scarlet Overkill is the weakest part of it.
Okay, I can't comment on it because I still haven't seen it. I want to see it, but I just haven't had time.
The thing is, though, I know you wouldn't have time to see it this weekend. Next weekend, you should be okay, and so it'll still be in loads of screens anyway, because there isn't very much released this week, and it's going up against Inside Out the week after that.
Yeah, if I get time for anything, I will try and see Mr. Holmes, because that does seem like it's maybe not going to be around for too long.
Yeah, and so I will go and see that, and then at least you know Minions is an easy one to go and see, because you could just easily make it a double bill with something else, because it's going to be shown on multiple screens, and it's a U certificate, so it's not... If it is going to get reduced screenings, they're still going to be in the morning/afternoon rather than just nighttime.
Yeah.
First review of the week.
So, Terminator Genisys, which is the 5th movie in the Terminator franchise, though technically... It's kind of the 3rd movie after sort of ignoring Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and Terminator Salvation, which are considered by many to be the weakest of the franchise so far. In this one you have, we start off in the future where you've got the whole thing of the... If you don't know the story of Terminator, spoilers for the first couple of films. Basically, Terminator started off with a film where 1984 a machine was sent back in time, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was basically a metal robot with a skin exterior, a human tissue skin exterior, because of the fact that you have to travel through time. It cannot be metal or anything like that. It has to be living tissue that travels. This machine has been sent back in time in the original film to kill Sarah Connor, played then by Linda Hamilton, and was sent to kill her because of the fact that in the future, when machines are taking over and machines are trying to destroy the world and kill mankind, the leader of the human resistance, John Connor, her as yet unborn son, would be the one that would actually lead the battle and defeat Skynet, the computer system. So here you have a movie where it starts off in the future with John Connor being played by Jason Clarke, sending back Kyle Reese, played by Jai Courtney, to 1984 to find Sarah Connor and protect her. The thing is that when he's sent back there, things aren't quite exactly as they were originally. The timeline has been changed and things are not the same as they should be. Here's a clip.
Listen to me, Reese, everything's changed. The 1984 John sent you to, it no longer exists.
No, this is all wrong, all right? John sent me here to save you.
From the Terminator that was sent back to kill me, I know, but we already took care of him.
We?
Get down! Reese, stop it! Reese, damn it!
Stay here!
Reese, wait! Those bullets will kill him!
If you're to kill you, stay in the truck.
Oh, great. That's just great.
I did not kill him.
So it's a thing of that it is one of those films where you get into the whole thing of time travel, and what's happened is that there has been another Terminator sent back in time previously. This one was sent to kill Sarah Connor when she was a child. It failed. It was stopped by another Terminator that was been programmed and sent back in time to protect her. Again, being played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. But now, because of the fact that the Terminators have living skin over them, that they do age. So obviously you have Arnold Schwarzenegger playing a Terminator that has gone back, has saved Sarah Connor as a child, has raised her, and is now considered basically by her to be kind of like a father figure. He's actually called Pops by her all the way through the film. And is basically played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, just playing himself older and playing the role. So without going into spoiler territory, because I don't really want to discuss the last half of the film, the first half of the film is definitely the better half of the film. And there are elements in there which are really nice throwbacks to the original film. If you've seen the original film, there's moments in it you'll go back, you go, oh yeah, I remember this bit. It was done exactly the same. Obviously, the actors that are in it aren't the same ones because it's been 30 years. But you have the thing of the touch is there. It looks great. It's done play, and then there are little things that happen, and you go, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on? This is different. And then you get into the new things of what are happening, and I didn't mind that. I thought it was nice. It was a kind of a sort of a reworking of it. I mean, the same way you had things like the Star Trek film, with J.J. Abrams completely kind of rebooting the franchise after having 10 films. There's not much you can do other than go back to the beginning and start again. But they did it in that sense, in a way that was clever, and it was still faithful to the original things and then changed things. And they've tried to do a similar kind of thing here. The problem is that in the second half of the film, it then does all these random things, twistings and turnings and things. And the problem is with that is that they find good twists. If you haven't seen the trailer and you haven't seen them all and you know they're all coming. But the thing is, it has this thing. I mean, it's definitely better than the last two Terminator films. It's not anywhere better than James Cameron's original two films. But the thing is, it has moments in it that are good. It has little bits of comedy in there, but it doesn't go over the top with the comedy. It's comedy that works in the sense of where it is and what it is. And the definitely, I don't know why Jai Courtney's in it, because he's gone back to the whole Jai Courtney can't act, don't want him in there, don't really care about him. Emilia Clarke, I think, is perfectly fine. I don't know if necessarily she's the best actress for the role, but she does. For me, she gets an A for pass for performance, and perfectly fine. I can buy her in it. I just have nagging elements to do with the last half of the film, to do with the whole thing of things that are changed. Some of them I think are quite well done, and I'm a person who I pay attention to things. I pick up stuff that's to do with time travel, and for me, all the things as they go through and they explain it, the time travel makes sense to me. I think a lot of people may be having an issue with that because it is very complex and unnecessarily complex, but I didn't have so much of a problem with that as other people. So, perfectly fine. It is a suitable sequel. It's a worthy sequel. It's not better than the originals. It's better than the last two films. But it's a movie that it's kind of got so far and then gone, you know what, I'm just going to do action, and then that's it. And that is the problem with it, is that it just dumbs down into action. And the Terminator films, the first two, weren't about just action. They were about hope and about the future and about things like that. And this one just kind of doesn't do that as it goes on, which is the problem.
Yeah, now it's time for my turn.
Yeah,
considering that people would probably have guessed where I would have stood on it, and I did go in it with an open mind. What I was expecting after seeing the stupidly cut together trailer. The person who actually did that trailer, and even the director agrees with it, should be shot. Well, he doesn't actually agree with the fact that he should be shot, but he was so annoyed with the way the last trailer was edited together, the fact that it gave away so much of the film, that I can understand his plight and I can understand his annoyance, because it would do exactly the same with me. And it proves that Hollywood needs to concentrate on what they're doing when they're creating trailers. We don't need to see absolutely everything in the trailer just to make us interested in it. We need to see enough to whet our appetite so we go into see the film and then be interested in the film itself. And so avoid the trailers if you have not seen them. Because if you do, then your mind might be slightly more open to the film itself. Mine wasn't. Mine was, but as soon as like 5 minutes into the film, it just closed off and went, nope. I know what to expect here, and I know. To be honest, I agree with you with the first half of the film that it works much better than the second half of the film when they were trying to set up things. There was annoyances in the first half, including the liquid Terminator. The way that scene's played out is very basic and very boring. But the rest of it's fine. You can maybe think to yourself, actually, this could be better than I was hoping it to be. And then it does a Die Hard, the last Die Hard film, and just decides to go with stupid action set pieces, with stupid boring dialogue, with stupidly bad acting, and then just try to rely heavily on the big explosions that happen on screen to get people's attention away from the stupid plot holes that are occurring.
And big effects.
Yeah, and so it just reminded me a lot of the previous Die Hard film. So if the director stuck with his guns and went with more of the feel of the first half of the film, rather than just losing the plot completely with the second half of the film, I might have liked it much more. But because of the fact that he did do that, he did destroy what he was actually building up. For me, the film itself was just boring. They're heavily relied on the sarcasm from Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he's now Sarcasmo Bot 5000 rather than a Terminator which is there to protect him. He's only brought into the film anyway, just so they can have some nostalgia going back to the first two Terminator films. And they go, oh, yeah, we'll bring him in, but we're just going to give him witty dialogue. They bring Jai Courtney in, who can't act for toffee at all, who sort of like every single film that he puts his dirty paw prints on, he just absolutely destroys it. And so he's making his way through Hollywood, destroying franchises one by one. The Die Hard franchise is now dead. This one, he's had a good job with this. Emilia Clarke, I agree with her. She's very underused. She's a bit pointless in the film, but whoever else could have gotten to play a role, I feel sorry for her anyway. Just the film itself is messy. The first half, okay. Last half, oh God.
I kind of want to see as well where... Cause, I mean, the thing is, it has changed things. Obviously, in an attempt to restart a franchise. And I kind of want to know... Because, I mean, normally a franchise is done with an attempt of, okay, we're going to go and do this in the next one. And there's no indication really of what they're planning to do, which is the weird thing. It's like they've gone, oh, we're going to set up a franchise, and then what? I don't know. We'll figure it out. And that's the problem. It's kind of that thought process as what's been applied to this film, is that they've gone and basically done, okay, we start off with the original, and then we changed it, and we'll do this, and what we'll do is we'll get to this point, and then we'll go, oh, we'll do that. We'll figure it out then. And that's the problem. Don't do that and figure it out. Don't make it up as you go. Have a plan. That's what the problem is with this. Is it feels as if they didn't really have a plan for how to do the last half of the film.
See, with me also is the fact that it hasn't done very well at the US box office. It went in at number 3 or 4 on a budget of $155 million. It only took something like $30 million in its opening weekend in the US. In the UK, even the previous Terminator film, Salvation, outperformed this in its opening weekend. And so the budget would have been $155 million, double that. So you're looking at around about at least $300 million in total, with down advertising costs as well. It's going to be really difficult for it to actually claw together all of its budget back. It might just do it. And then they look at it and think, well, if that's how we handle this one, how are we going to do the next one then? And like you said, you can't see how they're going to do it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been damaged. The Terminator franchise is definitely suffering the damage from the previous two films. And nothing against the third one, because the third one's perfectly fine, but not a great film. And the fourth one, I didn't have as much of a problem with it as other people did, but I know that it left a lot of people very annoyed and disappointed with things. So there is that definite that bad taste to the Terminator franchise now, which is probably what's affected the takings of the new one. Because to be fair, it is better than those two, and it deserves to be seen more than those two. People should see it rather than just go, oh, people are saying it's bad, I won't bother. People should go to this one in particular and see it and make up their own mind.
Maybe. on to, it's sequel week when it comes to the cinema releases, because the only other film we're reviewing this week is Magic Mike XXL. Now, Steven Soderbergh is stepped down from directing, that's what he says anyway, but he probably will crop up sometime in the future to direct something, and so he's handed the direction duties on this film to the producer of the last film, Gregory Jacobs. Steven Soderbergh has decided to step behind the camera, so he's working as cinematographer on this one, and I think he's got a production credit on the film as well.
I think he's editing as well.
So he did that with the previous film, and so he's doing that with this one, but the direction duties is handled by Gregory Jacobs, and it is still centering around the character of Channing Tatum's Mike. However, we learn that Matthew McConaughey's character Dallas is now decided to desert Mike and all of the other characters from the first one. He's gone off to somewhere in Australia or whatever with a different dance group, and so he's decided to desert them, and so Mike, he's stopped stripping. He's now actually got his own little tiny business where he builds furniture. He's got one other person working beside him. He gets a phone call one day from Kevin Nash's character Tarzan saying that Dallas has passed away and then he needs to go to a wake. And so when he goes to this supposed wake, it's a ruse, and he finds out it was a joke, and that's how he learns about what happened to Dallas's character. And Tarzan says, we need to do one last stripping thing. We need to go to this big, huge, massive stripping convention in Tampa Bay and just do it for one more time to get it out of our system. So Mike, along with, I can't believe I'm able to say his full name here, but his character name is Big Dick Ritchie, who's played by Joe Manganiello. Tarzan, Ken, and Tobias decide to head off in this truck to Tampa Bay, where they meet up with a whole host of different people from their past, including Jada Pinkett Smith's character, and in this clip, Elizabeth Banks.
What y'all doing here? Hi. Give your mama some sugar.
All right. How are you?
They always come back.
Mm-hmm.
You've been out. How long?
Don't worry about it.
A couple years.
Come on, you can find us a spot.
You've been dancing. Come on, look at you. Let me see.
Come on.
Are you even in shape?
It's like riding a bike.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. This is Big Dumb Rick. How you doing?
It's Dick.
Okay, so you don't have an MC.
We do have an MC.
You don't have an MC. What am I supposed to do?
We do have an MC.
Hey, gorgeous. Shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got a spot for us? 10:20. That's why I love you. That's a money spot. I expect y'all make some money in that spot. Thank you.
See, now, when it comes to Magic Mike, it is a stripping film, but the first film wasn't totally reliant on the stripping. There was stripping elements to it, but it was all about the drama and about the group dynamic of it, and so you learned about the characters and how hard it was for them to survive, and they had to go to do something like stripping, and so that's how it was an interesting film. What Magic Mike XXL does is just throw that completely out the window and concentrate on just the stripping, because that is it. It's a 2-hour film of just stripping, and you can just imagine how uncomfortable it is for one single male person, that is myself, to be in a screening with 6 other people who are all female on a Monday morning at 10:30. Now, I thought I might have actually avoided it, because I was checking over the previous few days to see if I was going to be the only one in it, and scarily, when I checked the website, one of the seats was actually sold out, which was in the top right-hand corner. Yeah, I don't want to think what was going on there, but yeah, when I did sat down in my seat, there was 2 friends who were sitting beside each other, then another 2 friends came in, and then another 2 friends came in, and I started to think to myself, what am I doing here? And then the film started, and I thought, yep, I can't escape now. And so for the 2 hours that it was on, it ditched the drama and concentrated on the stripping. Now, while it's very well choreographed, and Channing Tatum can actually dance, he's got some really good dancing moves, for a male, it's such an uncomfortable film. And the proof is the fact that the worldwide box office takings of this film, 96% of it, people who went to see it, were female. The other 3% of it were boyfriends who were dragged, and the 1% of it was sad people like myself who had to go and see the film to review it. The film itself is pretty bad. because it is just all about stripping, and it's not entertaining at all. It's nice, the choreography is nice, but it's just the same thing over and over again, so it repeats it. Some of the jokes fall majorly flat when it's trying to be funny. The only time when the film becomes slightly interesting is when Jada Pinkett Smith's character is on screen, because she plays somebody who owns this sort of like stripping empire of sorts, who empowers women. And so her character is quite interesting, and when Elizabeth Banks crops up as well, she has the sarcastic quips, and she does that brilliantly. And the only other thing that took my mind off what was happening was when Amber Heard was on screen, because anything when Amber Heard's on screen is just, it would be just if Mila Kunis was there. I would have been just distracted, just concentrating on her. Amber Heard, I'm exactly the same. Just distracted, concentrating on her and not worrying about what's happening in the background.
I don't know that.
Well, at least she was like a focal point. I could just concentrate rather than seeing some bloke grind his crotch into some woman's face. I don't want to see that. I just want to concentrate on Amber Heard. That's fine. So the film itself, like you said, it's got nothing in common with the first one, drama-wise. It's all about the stripping, and it's not entertaining at all. And now I can wash it out of my mind because you have to watch it for when we review it on Blu-ray and DVD.
If I can.
And I'm not watching it again. Only if there was a director's cut with Amber Heard in the entirety of the film. That's it. That's it for the cinema section of this week's show. We'll take a break. I need it. For the home release section.
There was a real sense of you were doing something wrong, but that did give it that feeling of excitement.
When the reveal of the film happens, that's when it just becomes absurd.
And the atmosphere and just the sense you get whenever you go into it is undeniable.
It did absolutely zero for me, which could be for the hype.
What we've just discussed there is just scratching the surface on it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted, and you're listening to From Page to Screen, the horror show.
And we're back with this week's home release section, which as usual will go through the DVD and Blu-ray top 10 and then look at these new releases.
Before I get onto them, a little bit of breaking news. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are directing a Star Wars movie about a young Han Solo. That's one of the Star Wars spin-off films, and it is going to be directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller.
What do you reckon they want to get Channing Tatum in for that?
I don't care. It's directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. So I think they are fantastic directors. So of comedy, though. We'll see what they do there. But on to this week's show, DVD and Blu-rays. We're looking at Oscar-nominated films Still Alice, Neil Blomkamp's and latest science fiction epic with Chappie, stalker thriller with The Boy Next Door, comedy thriller of sorts with Focus, comedy in huge massive inverted commas with The Wedding Ringer, gritty British gangster thriller with Hyena, and we'll round things off with horror with The Possession of Michael King.
But as usual, we'll go straight on to this week's DVD and Blu-ray top 10.
So at number 10 is a new entry for House of Cards Series 3.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, it's not a film, but I will say this actually, there are two series that are worth seeing for being shot like film. One is Hannibal and the other is this. So this is one that if you do like Kevin Spacey especially, and you like good sort of political thrillers that are good ones, then check this out because you might be surprised and you might enjoy it.
The difference is that this will make it into Series 4, Hannibal won't. Because both Netflix and Amazon have just passed on it. So they're not going to make Season 4 of Hannibal, which, by the way, I've seen Episode 5 of it, and I'm actually really enjoying this season. I don't know why the haters are with Hannibal Season 3, but I'm actually really enjoying it.
I haven't seen the Episode 5 yet, so I have to see that.
It's actually a really good, there's a really gruesomely nasty scene in it, but On to DVD and Blu-rays. Number 9, Big Hero 6.
Which is a great animation. It is typically kind of going into the superhero thing, which I know you didn't like. I didn't have a problem with it. But the thing is that it's an animation which is kind of still Disney stealing Pixar's thunder. And Disney, the thunder is now, as far as I'm concerned, permanently with Disney until I guess we'll see what Inside Out's like.
No, God,
Yes,
no,
yes,
trust
yes,
me.
yes.
I have actually seen Inside Out. So the early word from me is it is absolutely amazing. So we'll get onto that in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, it's Pixar snapping it back from Disney. And number 8 is a new entry for It Follows.
I haven't seen this yet, and for it being a horror film, I do want to see it.
It's a horror film.
I'm interested by the concept.
It's a horror film in the sense that movies like Teeth is a horror film. And it's just not like the straightforward normal horror movies that you would expect, you know, the quite bang kind of stuff or that kind of thing. It's the horror movie in that it's more psychological in a way, and so I think that's why you'll enjoy it much more, very much more like Funny Games, movies like that ilk. And I really like it's an interesting idea. For the sequel that they're planning, they're going to completely flip the idea on its head. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but we'll see. I wouldn't say it's got very much of an open ending, but the way the film has actually played out, the idea of the film, you can see they can tamper around with it a little bit. So I really liked It Follows. It's not the big, huge, massive breakout horror that people are making it out to be. It's not this year's The Babadook, but it's still a really interesting horror film. I think Spring, though, is slightly better. And number 7 is American Sniper.
Which is a film that we've said it many times. We don't think it should have been sort of given all the plaudits it was. It deserves some of them, but it does have a sort of a rocky sort of balance to it between the whole thing going on at war and the whole thing going on at home. I don't necessarily know if that's really down to the film or if it's down to the book. I suspect it is down to the book. But I mean, it's solid direction from Clint Eastwood. It's solid performance from Bradley Cooper. It's just that it has this nagging feeling after you've seen it of going, yeah, I would have gone a different direction with it.
At number 6 is Kingsman: The Secret Service,
which I really like, and I think that it's a great throwback to the Bond films. It's a great homage to them. It has lots of references and the kind of the jokes and stuff in it. I don't think it's anywhere as insulting as some people have made it out to be in certain aspects of it. I think it is a little bit laddish, but I think that serves it because of the fact that it's present day and it's not 1960s, though it is referencing 1960s Bond films.
At number 5, surprisingly high, is A New Entry for the Last Night.
Yeah, and I don't understand why, because it must be cheap on like one of these new releases that's just really cheap, probably less than £10, less than £8 or something on DVD release.
I think it might be something like a $7.99 release.
Yeah, so it's probably having Morgan Freeman in it and Clive Owen is what's winning people over, and they're thinking, you know what, £8, I'll do that, or probably download, to be honest, as well. But so I mean, it's not terrible, but it's pretty close. It's awful. It's a European film trying to be a big Hollywood blockbuster thing, and it's not. It doesn't have that. It can't do that. You're not going to do that. You do a European style thing, but do it properly. Don't do it half-assed.
Yeah, it's just considering that movies like Cake only went in at number 44. You would expect that to do much better than number 44, especially better than Last Night and number 5, which I've not seen Last Night at all. I don't even intend to watch the thing because when you reviewed it last week, when you reviewed in the cinema section of the show, it completely put me off the film anyway. Yeah. So I have no intentions to see it. Will it make your worst films of the year?
Possibly. If it does, it won't be in my top 5 if it is in there. I know for a fact that there are 5 films that are worse than it, definitely. So it may not. It may just make honourable mentions, which would be sort of 11 to 15 kind of. But it's definitely, especially for having Morgan Freeman and having Clive Owen. I mean, Clive Owen himself is a almost B-class actor because of the number of films he's been in, which are just terrible choices. But he's not. He should be better than this, and he needs a new agent.
Yeah, just like Liam Neeson at number 4 with Taken 3.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell? Just enough. Please, stop.
Please stop. At number 3 is A New Entry for Jupiter Ascending.
Which I liked. It is nutbar crazy, but it is Wachowski's nutbar crazy, and it has an element to it which is it's enjoyable. It is big budget, it is big special effects thing. Do see it on the biggest screen you can, or TV you can, or whatever. I mean, I watch it on a projector, and I'm like fine with it. And it is right down my alley of big, spaceships and science fiction and all that kind of thing, which I love. I do love that kind of thing. I have to admit, I have a soft spot for it if it's done properly. And it's done okay here. It's not done properly, but it has. It's a film that you put it on for 2 hours. You might go, well, that was just crazy, but you won't come out at the end going, well, I was bored. I fell asleep.
I did, but I didn't fall asleep, but I was bored. At number 2 is 50 Shades of Grey.
Talking of bored and falling asleep, I mean, it's a film that I liked what they were trying to do with it. I didn't think they tried. I didn't think they actually did it. I thought they were trying to do with it, and it's a film where it has honestly. There are films with sex scenes which are actually in exciting and visually worth seeing. I mean, Basic Instinct is a film with sex scenes that work like that. 50 Shades of Grey has sex scenes that are completely non-existent on the pulse-raising meter. They're boring. And I think, actually, honestly, as much as I understand in the book they are very graphic and everything to me, you can't really probably take it to the film other than actually doing a porno movie. So I actually think I'm curious. Actually, you get people edit a film and put out their own version of it. I'd be curious to see what this film looked like with the sex scenes just completely cut out of it, and see if it's still as bad or if that actually does improve it.
Well, a couple of things. All I'll say is that there's a scene in Minions which is much more sexy in this, involving a minion called Norbert who walks out to the sea with starfish on his bosoms area. And that's more sexually better than this film. And if you're looking at films that are much more graphic than this, so using the excuse of the fact that the book is graphic so they wouldn't have been able to translate it into the film itself, you look at Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac. He did 2 versions of that. There is supposedly a hardcore version of it and the 18-rated version of it, which was still very explicit. You look at films like Seven Songs and going back to things like Secretary and all those kind of films, they are very highly sexually charged, and the sex scenes in it are quite graphic. Blue is the Warmest Colour, for example. It's a 3-hour film where some of the scenes I'm surprised he was able to get away with for an 18-rated certificate. So using the excuse that because of the book itself has got the scenes in it are really risky, and the way the film has turned out, they wouldn't have been able to do that, is not valid. Because the fact that they could have easily done that, they just needed to change a little few things. They didn't need to change it so much so that a U-rated film is more sexually charged than an 18-rated film.
Yeah, I mean, adaptation doesn't mean literally do everything that you're adapting. It means make some decisions, do some creative things, and actually maybe necessarily change some things for the better.
Well, I don't know how they could do that with 50 Shades of Grey, considering that you've got a really bad source material from the start anyway. And number 1 is a new entry for the second best exotic Marigold Hotel.
Which is perfectly fine. Sequel. It is, again, all hands on deck, same thing again, enjoyable. It's not maybe necessary as a sequel, you don't need it, but it's one that you watch it, and if you like the charm of the first one, you thought, yeah, okay, I liked it, I had fun with it, then you'll probably have the same with this one. It is just more of the same, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I can't comment on more of the same because the fact that I've still not seen the first one.
You've seen the second one. It's like How to Train Your Dragon. You've seen the second one, but still not seen the first one, have you?
No, I have seen the first one now.
Oh, you have seen the first one now, okay.
Yes, I have seen the first one.
Okay.
Took me time.
Moving on then, let's get going with this week's new releases.
Still Alice, directed by Richard Glatzer and Wash Westmoreland. What a name. It stars Julianne Moore, who was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actress in the film, and she plays Alice Howland, who is a linguistic professor. And pretty much straight, about 5-10 minutes into the film, you realise there's something seriously wrong with her because you can't remember most of her lectures, and which is really bad considering what she is. She is a linguistic professor, and so it's all about language and all about words and things like that, and so she needs to try and remember definitions and etymology of words, and she starts to forget it, and so her husband, who's played by Alec Baldwin, is wondering what could be wrong, and so she ends up visiting a doctor, and she is diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And so the rest of the film just explores her life, a relationship between her and her daughters, who's played by Kate Bosworth, who plays Anna, and Kristen Stewart, who plays Lydia, and also her relationship between her and her husband when she is starting to degrade more so, and when the disease is starting to latch onto her even more. Here's a clip. It's actually a really nice clip between her and her daughter.
What's it like? Like, what does it actually feel like?
Well, it's not always the same. You know, I have good days, bad days, and on my good days, I can, almost pass for a normal person. But on my bad days, I feel like I can't find myself. I've always been so defined by my intellect, my language, my articulation, and now sometimes I can see the words hanging in front of me and I can't reach them and I don't know who I am and I don't know what I'm going to lose next.
Sounds horrible.
Thanks for asking.
And so the thing with the film is, it is all about the acting, and Julianne Moore is superb in the film. So is Kristen Stewart. She is absolutely fantastic in this one, because we take the mickey out of her pretty much all the time. The fact that she can't add emotion to a character. Whereas in this film, I don't know what she's done with her career, because it seems that her movies as of late, which I'm still eager to see Camp X-Ray, it has still not got a release over here, and I'm wondering what it's like. And she's also in a film out in a couple of weeks' time called The Clouds of Silas Maria, and I'm interested in that one as well. But in this, her character is fantastic. You heard in the clip how sympathetic she is to Alice. She's the one who wants to stay with her when her husband, John, has decided to sort of like detach himself from her because he can't handle the Alzheimer's that is latching onto his wife. Her daughter just comes to the forefront, and Lydia, she is the rock that is needed for Alice in the film. And so both Julianne Moore and Kristen Stewart hold their characters with such aplomb, with such brilliance. And then you've got Kate Bosworth, who plays Anna, and she has to look after her family because she is pregnant, and so she's got a child on the way as well. And so it's really difficult for her to concentrate on her mother and also concentrate on her life. So you understand with her character. And so the film itself is an exploration about how Alzheimer's affects a family in different stages, and when different people of the family are doing different things and how different people handle it. And so it's done really well. The cinematography's nice, the music's nice, the whole entire film. There is one gorgeous scene in the movie which is shot on a beach, which involves Alice's character, and it does bring you to tears because it is so well shot and so well acted. And so that's a film to aplomb. It's a really well-made film, brilliantly acted, brilliantly directed.
I still haven't seen it, and I do want to see it. And I mean, Julianne Moore is pretty much anything Julianne Moore is in, even if it's bad, like Seventh Son, is always nice to see her in it. She always gives her best performance and everything. So I mean, I'm looking forward to getting the chance to see it. It's just a case it's probably going to be 2016 by the time I do it at the moment.
Still Alice 2 will probably be out by then.
Okay, on to Chappie, which is directed by Neil Blomkamp, who also had a hand in writing it. It is a movie set in the near future. It's never sort of confirmed as to where it is, but it's a sort of a future and a town where essentially there is a sort of a militarized state that is run by the police, but the police force has a helping hand, and there are these robots that do most of the sort of the enforcement along with the police. There is this company that makes all of these droids that has been sort of doing successfully because of that, and at this company is a programmer named Dion, played by Dev Patel. He has been working in his own spare time on another program to run one of these droids, which will be an artificial reality program, an artificial intelligence program, which will basically mean that the machine is actually alive, conscious, and able to make its own decisions. He goes to his boss, played by Sigourney Weaver in the movie, and in a very small role, to try and convince her to let him do this. Here's a clip.
Morning, Dion. All right, let's have it. What are you proposing now?
I think I've cracked it. The world's first proper, full artificial intelligence. This is a computer system that might be smarter than a human. I could show it a piece of art, and this thing, this being, could judge that art. It could decide if it liked it. It could write music and poetry.
Stop, please, Dion. Do you realize you just came to the CEO of a publicly traded weapons corporation and pitched a robot that can write poems?
Also working at the weapons manufacturing, the robot company, is a worker played by Hugh Jackman, who is a guy he's kind of a ex-military guy. He's more of the mind of that there should be more sort of advanced machines but controlled by man. He has this kind of thing. If you've seen the RoboCop films, you know, sort of the Ed 209 thing of these big monsters that sort of walk on two legs. He is of the mind that there should be something like this that's made that should be sort of remote controlled instead of having its own intelligence. What happens is that Dion ends up being able to get hold of a machine that is defunct. It's been damaged. It has a battery that is stuck in it and can't be removed. So he decides to experiment on this with the artificial intelligence, creating a character that ends up ultimately being called Chappie, but is basically kidnapped and held hostage by a couple of gangsters played by musical rappers, artists, D'Antwoord. So here's the thing with Chappie. It is the typical kind of thing. If you look at Neil Blomkamp's previous movies, Elysium and District 9? District 9, yeah. There is a lot of the similar kind of elements to it of, you know, sort of people against the sort of the corporation sort of stuff, the government sort of thing. There's a similar kind of element to this, but it's more focused on the characters around this central character of Chappie and the whole thing of that, which is played brilliantly as motion capture by Sharlto Copley. And the motion capture and the CG on the robot of Chappie is fantastic. It's really amazingly done. The problem is that when it gets to the point where D'Antwoord come in, you kind of really just struggle at points to keep up with it, and it's the kind of leaps and bounds that the story tries to make, and that you have these people there that are kind of they kind of drive you nuts a little bit watching it, I have to say. But there are some moments in it that are there are emotional moments in there with the character of Chappie, this robot. And especially around the character of Yolandi, played by Yolandi Visser of the musical artist and Ninja, and not so much with Ninja, but the whole thing of you have Chappie then kind of adapting to them as being kind of his mother and father, and there is that kind of elements there that is surprising how that does work, despite the fact of that there are things wrong with it that it shouldn't. Is the way that's interesting about this film. It doesn't quite do as well. I think for me personally, it's a better film than Elysium, but only just in that I think it's more complete and has a better sort of last half of the film. I do think though it's still got the same problems of the pacing. I think there's problems of too many characters, and I think the whole thing as well with Hugh Jackman's character, to be honest, isn't entirely necessary, and at points had me going kind of questioning, really that's happening, and I struggle with that. But it's an interesting film. It's an action-filled film as well. But by the end of it, you might enjoy it, but you'll go kind of, I wish I'd enjoyed it more.
For me, I think it's Blomkamp's worst because it's down to the tone of the film. It doesn't know what kind of movie it wants to be, whether it wants to go from something like Short Circuit, revolving around D'Antwoord with Chappie and them raising it up sort of like a child, and that's what Johnny Five was like in Short Circuit. He was very childlike because when he was created, he was like that. He never understood the world, and he was getting all of his information through television and any kind of media that he was able to do that. And that's exactly the same with Chappie. He watches television, he gets it through digital media, computers, via Facebook, Twitter, anything like that. And so that's the childish element of it. And then you've got the RoboCop element to it, which involves the Sigourney Weaver character in the Hugh Jackman one, trying to capture this supposed sentient being who could, the way they're looking at it, be the destruction of them all. When in fact that's not going to be the case. It's just they need an excuse to, especially Hugh Jackman's character, to release his ultimate creature, which looks like it's something that's took out of the RoboCop series. And so the tone of the film is all over the place for me. Blomkamp doesn't know when to handle the childish tone and when's the right time to handle the action over-the-top RoboCop tone of the film. And so I agree with you on the Jackman character. He could have been left out of it. The same with the Sigourney Weaver stuff. Dev Patel, he's sort of like in the middle. You don't understand his character to the fullest. He's just a father who's trying to create it. Yet you've also got the father figures in D'Antwoord. And D'Antwoord are not actors. If you've looked at some of their music videos, a couple of them have got very strong acting elements to them, but they are a rap group from South Africa. They're a very strange rap group. I knew about them before the film itself, and if you heard their music, it is quite weird, and it's played throughout the film. They do a lot on the soundtrack as well. And so I think it is Blomkamp's worst film. I liked Elysium more because I think Elysium's structure was much more sound compared to Chappie. At least Elysium wasn't all over the place, tonally wise. At least it knew what it was trying to do. Whereas Chappie, it's not sure. It's a Jekyll and Hyde of a film, and it doesn't work.
I will have to say as well, the ending kind of left me with a kind of what ending moment as well.
Considering that this is supposed to be the third and final part of Blomkamp's South African trilogy, he wants to get away from that, and obviously he is with the next Alien film. And so it's just a bit of a misstep for him with that. It doesn't get any better, though, with The Boy Next Door, directed by Rob Cohen and starring Jennifer Lopez. And it centres around a character of Claire Peterson. She lives with her children, and then one day, one of her sons brings back a friend who's just moved in across the street, Ryan Guzman's character of Noah Sanborn. He decides to have an attraction with her, and then all hell breaks loose. Here's a clip.
That date was awful. Like that chicken. Sorry, I couldn't salvage it more, but
you
the
did
damage
fine.
was done.
Yeah. I'm glad I had you next door.
What?
God, you're beautiful. You know that?
Oh, no, I'm...
Amazing. Sweet. Natural. Sexy. So sexy.
Noah.
Now, if you think Chappie is all over the place, it's an understatement when it comes to The Boy Next Door, because it's a movie that starts off pretty badly and it never recovers at all. It just, everything that it tries to do, when it tries to bring any other characters, Christine Chenoweth is a friend of Jennifer Lopez's character in the film, and so when it tries to bring in anything like that, when it tries to add twists and turns, when it tries to be violent, when it tries to be dark, it fails on everything that it tries, because it just doesn't understand what kind of film it should be. It's supposed to be creepy, yet it's not creepy. The character of Noah is supposed to be stupidly nasty and really horrible and maniacal, yet everything that he does, it's the kind of thing that you would pull off when you're in school as a 12-year-old to a teacher. And that's exactly what he is. He's a school pupil. But it feels like he is just one of the characters who would pick his nose and flick a booger at a teacher sitting at the front of the class. It is that stupid, and when it does get violent in the last 10 minutes, it's just laughably violent. It's just adding that violence in there just because it forgets that it needs it. So the film itself is just badly executed on every single level.
Okay, on to Focus then, which is written and directed by Glenn Ficarra and John Requa. It is a movie about the con man, the con job, the whole thing of, and how this is done by having focus, as you need to make sure that you are more focused to it. You can do it. You can keep people diverted. You can keep their attention. You can do things without them realizing and such, and you can lead them into one thing and to another, so that you can get the upper hand on them. You have in this the main character of Will Smith, plays Nikki, and you have introduced into the story along is Jess, played by Margot Robbie, who is a up and coming young girl. You have this scene where he's sort of in there at the bar with her. She takes him up to her room. A guy runs in and he kind of turns around and says to them, "You know what? You're doing this all wrong. You should be doing it this way. You got to wait for this. You got to wait this." And he basically outcons them. The whole thing is sort of then going to the two of them, and she finds out sort of more about him and basically comes to tell him that she wants in. Here's a clip.
I want in.
Maybe I'm just here to watch the game.
I asked around who ran the game in Harlem. The Limehouse Kid is your grandfather. Bucky Spurgeon is your father.
Father is a very generous term.
And you're Nicky Spurgeon. They call you Mello.
I'm all crewed up, sweetie.
Oh, come on. Please, can we skip the part where I speak through thinly veiled allure and lead you to believe there's some earth-shattering hump in the works?
There's no earth-shattering hump in the works?
No.
I don't even get thinly veiled allure. No baby voice, no lingering eye contact.
I am hopeless.
Can I suggest that you learn professionally?
Well, I mean, you could show me in your room.
That is so bad.
Is it?
Does it feel sexy on your face?
A little.
It does. Okay, let's go.
So you have the whole thing of focus. I mean, it's kind of doing the whole con thing, which you've seen in loads of other films before. The one in particular that stood out to me was Confidence, which is about a similar kind of thing. You have a group and they come together to do a job. And that's what you have here. Only the thing is that the kind of thing that's interesting here is that it kind of does that whole thing of there's a con job on the characters and then there's a con job being played on you, the viewer, in a way. And there's things going on, you're not sure what's happening. It's kind of making sense and then it's explaining things, but the problem is it starts getting too complex. You start getting too many things going on, too many things, it starts getting confused. And if you're really there, you kind of go, wait, what, really? This is all happening? This seems a little bit not sort of confidence, it seems more convenience. And there are moments in it where it has some twists and everything, which if you're looking, you're seeing some of them you'll see coming, some of them you won't. And genuinely, there was one twist which I did not see at all towards the end of the film, which I have to give them props for actually managing to pull off. But at the same time, I kind of went, what? Really? Okay, fair enough. But it just seemed out of nowhere, kind of a thing. But it's a film that it's successful on a level, but it just doesn't have the chemistry there that it needs to pull it off, which is a shame because there is something there. They just can't tap into it.
I've yet to see it, and considering the amount of films that I've watched over the last 5 days, I've seen 11 films over the last 5 days. That wasn't one of them.
What was one of them?
Too many, to be honest. Just too many. I've been trying to catch up because I have been
lacking. To lead you into the next film.
Well, I'm trying my best not to go into the next film.
You have to.
But if I was going to say,
move on. We'll be stuck here forever on Focus, which I don't really want to be done.
Yeah, okay, then on to The Wedding Ringer then. It's directed by Jeremy Garlick and it stars Kevin Hart, the brilliant comedian that is Kevin Hart. He plays Jimmy, and Josh Gad, who was last heard in Frozen, who plays Doug. Now, Doug is about to get married to his sweetheart, who's played by Kaylee Cuoco Sweeting. Sorry, slightly distracted. But yeah, he's about to
ban you from watching any films with female characters in it. You're going to go back to watch Magic Mike XXL again.
Yeah, well, that's probably a bad idea, considering it's got Amber Heard in it. So yeah, yeah. So it does centre around Josh Gad's character and Kaylee Cuoco Sweeting's character. They're about to get married. However, there is something wrong with Josh Gad's stuff. He does not have a best man. In fact, he does not have any friends at all. And so he decides to, after getting advice from their wedding planner, to go to a company who is owned by Kevin Hart. And the fact that he has this thing where he goes to weddings and he does best man speeches, and he pretty much is a best man for hire. And so both of them try to find people who can be their friends as well, and supposed hilarity ensues. Here's a clip.
I was a bit surprised when I met your groomsmen. I mean, actually terrified, like, wow, what is that? But gotta say, they're really good guys. I mean,
honey, you there?
don't you think it's a bit strange that you use Bic razors and Mitchum deodorant and your best man's name is Bic Mitchum?
Well, if your best friend was named Jemima Colgate, I bet you wouldn't use Log Cabin syrup or Aquafresh toothpaste, would you?
And so, yeah, the film, like I said, is supposed to be funny when it is not funny at all. It is just another one of those typical guy kind of movies where It's really downtrodden to women. It uses gross out humour to try and make itself funny. Considering that Josh Gad has gone from something like Frozen to doing something like this, it's just a bit of a smack in the face, especially when you've got Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is not a funny person at all. And so alarm bells need to ring when you see Kevin Hart's name attached to a comedy. There might be a time where he might star in a film where it might be funny, but so far that's not happened. And this is, again, it's another one of them. It's badly plotted. None of the jokes are funny at all. It's just not, like I said, comedy without the comedy. It's bad. It doesn't deserve a rant.
Is it his worst film, or has he done
No,
worse?
because there are people around him which are slightly more tolerable, and so any of his misgivings, because it tries to interject some drama into it. When Jimmy realizes that what he's doing is sort of like, it's not what he wants. He actually wants to be on the other side of it. He wants to have the wedding. The wedding he wants is for himself. He wants to have a bride rather than being somebody who plays the best man for hire. And so it tries to add drama to it. And so that sort of like tones the film down a little bit. But he's a really annoying person. And he dials that back a little bit. So it's his most tolerable film. But it's not funny at all.
Okay, my last movie of this evening is Hyena, which is written and directed by Gerald Johnson. It is a small British indie film which centres around the character of Michael, played by Peter Ferdinando, who is a detective in London. He's basically a dirty cop, as we sort of learn very early on. He's sort of has these connections with the mafia. He's brought into to look into sort of things going on connected to a murder that's happened of a person who is a gangster, is a connection with sort of mafia, and ends up going around looking to sort of sort out and find out what happened. Not so much to clear up the thing and to actually solve the case, as to say, don't do this. This doesn't happen on my turf, on my watch. Here's a clip.
What do we want? Turk by the name of Jem Dickman was murdered yesterday. But we're not here to investigate that, so you can relax. But I do think we need to talk.
About what?
If you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. The same way I did for Keith Dickman over the years.
Chapel Patruken. You mean? What are you saying exactly?
What happened to Jem is not how it's done here. If people want to take over, they're going to have to work with me. Do you understand me? We will come to an arrangement. Call that number on the top.
So at the same time as Michael is doing this, he then starts to get involved with this whole thing of there is a sort of a people smuggling group going on. He ends up running into one of the women who is basically being sort of forced into prostitution, and starts to realise, there is this kind of this greyness. There's not just black and white of sort of good and bad and things like that, and that he starts to question, where do you draw the line of this, and how far does he go as regards also putting himself on the line as to whether or not he tries to help this woman and such. And the thing is, that's where the movie starts to get interesting, starts to go different, because at the opening it does start off with that very simple thing going on, and you're kind of wondering, he's a dirty cop, we're just going to see him being dirty. But then you have the whole thing of kind of the redemption part of it, of him deciding, well, maybe I'm not this dirty, maybe I want to do something different, maybe I want to try and do something here. And that's the thing that then it starts getting interesting. It's not a typical gangster sort of London film thing, because the thing that there's not much action in it. It's not a very graphic. It is, a lot of it is down to the performance of Peter Ferdinando, and there's this thing going on as well with, like, he's he leads this sort of a small 4-man unit. The others in the unit are all very much kind of, they'll go into place, they'll raid it, they'll take a cut of everything. He's kind of then deciding, you know, maybe I don't want to be doing this, but not kind of saying as much to them, because doing so would upset things and would make them maybe turn on him. Hence the whole thing of kind of being like a hyena and being in sort of the group and things. So it's very cleverly done. It's very well written for the characters. It's not, I don't think it's worthy of any sort of awards or anything, like winning awards, stuff like that, but it's definitely a good indie, small budget British film, which is worth seeing if you like that. And I expect that our friend Stuart on From Page to Screen, who when he does his British show, if he hasn't already seen Hyena, I expect he will probably be seeing it soon and having some good words to say about it, because it's right down his alley.
Okay then, my final film then. I get the bargain basement thingy of the weekend. As a matter of fact, I think most of the films that I reviewed this week are the bargain basement one, apart from one. But it's The Possession of Michael King. It's a shaky cam horror film. It is about the possession of somebody, but it decides to try to take a slightly different slant. It's directed by David Young, and the main character, Michael King, is played by Shane Johnson. And now it centres around him. He doesn't believe in God, or the devil, or anything like that. He hasn't got a religion that he believes in at all. And when his wife passes away, she was quite religious, and so he decides to explore the world of possession as a documentary that he's creating. And so what he does is, instead of going to find out people who've been possessed, he decides to get himself possessed. Not once, 5 times. By different forms of possession, necromancy, things like that. And so he goes to different people to get himself possessed, to try and see if this thing is real. Here's a clip.
Michael. Hey, you in here? Michael, you in here? Michael.
Michael! Come on, get down, man. Get down from there. Let's get out of here. Come on. Are you okay?
I don't want to be dead.
And so the film itself, you can probably predict what kind of movie it is. It is this stupid, silly, so like everything from Paranormal Activity to The Devil Inside or whatever. But like you said, instead of it being about somebody investigating people who are possessed, he gets himself possessed multiple times. And it's not a good thing to try and even dabble in it. Never mind being multiply possessed, having tons of demons latching onto the person's body. So that's the biggest problem with the film, because the fact that it is about multiple possession, you know it's not going to end off good from the first 2 minutes. And that's not giving any spoilers away. It's just there. You know he's not going to be able to come through for it. And so the film needs to rely on some of the scares. That was one of the only clip that I could actually play. There was some quietness into it, and you got a scare at the end. And it is the very stereotypical quiet, loud scream kind of thing. It is the jump scares that we've seen in multiple films, and that's not what works of the film. If there's anything that does work of the film itself, it's the actor himself, Shane Johnson, who plays Michael. He does a really good job. He has to contort his body. He has to do lots of really nasty things. What he puts his body through is a lot to ask from an actor. And to do it in a movie like this, I feel really sorry for him, because the film itself is bad. And if it wasn't for Shane Johnson, it would have been really, really bad. But because he handles his character really well, it alleviates the film a little bit more. But it's still not a film I can recommend. It's a movie that's going to skip a lot of people by, and the only people who'll watch it are the people who are interested in these kind of films. So it's avoidable, unfortunately.
Okay, that is it for this week's show. So you'll hear in a moment what we think of them, which is our sort of our movie of the week out of those. But before that, we'll round up with our usual shout out to places that we've got. Followingthenerd.com, who didn't have a show last week, but I believe will back this week on Thursday night.
I honestly don't know. I was told by Mark they haven't had a show for the last 2 weeks. He's not sure when the show is going to be back.
Okay, it's a shame. And also there is From Page to Screen, as I already mentioned there, that do a British show and a horror show, as you heard during our ad clip, which is From Page to Screen, the number 2 in the middle of that .com. You can always find us as usual at mondaymovieshow.co.uk, on Twitter at mondaymovieshow.co. Sorry, on Twitter at Monday Movie Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, and on all places like iTunes, and they're through sort of connected Podkicker and all other sort of YouTube, all other sort of places like that to be able to listen to the show, as well as on Spreaker.com. So let's actually no, sorry, TV movies of the week we need to go through first. So what do you got there?
Well, both of mine are on Saturday. So I'm hoping you haven't got any on Saturday.
I have one of them. I suspect it'll be the same thing as you, because of connections to a new release coming out soon.
Yes, it is. So the ones that I've gone for is, my guess is Ted. It's on Channel 4 on Saturday the 11th at 9 o'clock. It's Thunder Buddies for Life. It is really, really funny. It's Seth MacFarlane's live-action directorial debut. As a matter of fact, it's his film directorial debut, coming from Family Guy and American Dad and all that kind of stuff. It's very his humour. If you don't like his dry, witty humour, he doesn't mind taking a pop at anything, then you would not like Ted. But if you find that thing kind of funny, then you will laugh at Ted, and I did. I just laughed a lot at Ted. My other film of choice is on Saturday also, pretty much straight afterward, but on a different channel. It's on Film 4, Saturday the 11th, at 11:15, Stakeland. It's Nick D'Amici, Jim Mickle. They've teamed up on a lot of films together. It's sort of like a vampire film, but in a way not a vampire film. But it's brilliantly acted. It's very creepy, and I really liked it. It's very much like The Road with vampire hints to it.
And I'll add to that selection of movies that I'm going to add The Bourne Legacy, which I know you don't have a massive fan for it, but the thing is, I think it's an interesting film to see that when you've done a trilogy of films, you had The Bourne Identity, The Bourne Supremacy, and The Bourne Ultimatum, which was a trilogy with Matt Damon, and then it kind of ended because there was nowhere else for Matt Damon to go. Then The Bourne Legacy was done, which was a separate film altogether, but it's connected to that universe, and it opens things up for Matt Damon to return now with Paul Greengrass again, because they're interested in what possibilities The Bourne Legacy has created. So that's one to see. I think for that reason it's interesting. It expands the world. That's on Thursday the 9th at 9 PM on Film 4. I was expecting you to say something about that, because I know you don't particularly like the film.
No, I don't think people actually know what I think about Bond films, so it's treading on the same kind of territory again and again and again, isn't it?
Yeah. Movie of the week, then?
Still Alice.
I'm going to go with Hyena, although almost focus about Hyena. So there are recommendations of the new releases, though. Listen to the whole show, go through and pick out what you like and see what you think as well. Let us know what you think of any of the films we've seen here. You can email us at mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. You can tweet us, as we said already, at Monday Movie Show. You can tweet Stuart directly at Cryptic Tadpole and me directly at AHDVD. We'll be back next week, possibly on the Tuesday. Things are still sort of up in the air, but what we're going to do is leave you with a clip, as usual, of a film coming out on July 17th. It is Marvel's Ant-Man. So we're going to leave you with a little bit longer clip than normal of this. Until next week, bye-bye.
Adios.
Oh, man.
What is it?
Well, they weren't kidding. This safe is serious.
How serious we talking, Scotty?
It's a Carbondale. It's from 1910. Made from the same steel as the Titanic.
Wow. Can you crack it?
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't do so well in the cold. Remember what that iceberg did?
Yeah, man, it killed DiCaprio.
Killed everybody.
Not to kill the old lady. She still throw the jewel into the oceans.
What are you doing?
I poured water in the locking mechanism and froze it with nitrogen. Ice expands, metal doesn't.
What are you doing now?
Waiting. Nice.
What is it? Cash? Jewels?
It's a suit.
What?
It's an old motorcycle suit.
There's no cash, no jewelry, nothing?
No. It's a bust.
I'm really sorry, Scotty. I know you needed a scorer.